I'm not particularly big. I am quite tall, but I would consider the two separate. And arguably one is significantly less in my control. I suppose many people would argue both are exclusively out of my control, but I don't necessarily agree with that perception. I'm not sure why physical size is valuable to me. I guess it's an indication of strength, which, as a human man, I am taught to value. Maybe not even taught. I think I might be subconscious or just inherent to people as a whole, to value raw physical power and to fear it in others as a method of imposing will directly on other people. That being said, in a modern society, physical prowess essentially does not matter. I would, however, say that it is an indication of dedication, which I know I've touched on previously. Dedication being an admirable trait. All this to be said, I am not big. And that leaves me with, I suppose, 3 options. The first is inaction, and probably the easiest. I can choose to accept myself the way that I am. I can build my world and the framework of my reality around the most comfortable and obvious option. Alternatively, I can seek to align my world with my desires, which is arguably more difficult. Now, when I go into the train of thought, I would think, if it is truly aligned with who I want to be, why would there be that obstacle? Although I don't think that line of thinking is necessarily accurate, as most things that are worth having require work and effort. Again, touching back on that dedication being a primary motivator. The third option, which has become unacceptable to me, is wanting to be more or greater or a better version, but not acting. Recognition of desire with lack of action is a recipe for the destruction of self-worth. If you are able to internally recognize a desire while not being able to muster the strength, courage, and dedication to pursue it, you are telling yourself that you aren't a priority and your wishes are less important and have less impact on your life than your circumstances. And circumstances are often outside of our control, but our reaction to them is certainly within our control. This is something I've been wrestling with recently. The will of other people, the desire of other people, may be at odds with who you are. I'm not sure if that makes sense and even fits into this conversation, but there's my concept of myself and who I want and who I am. And then there's secondarily the perception of the world. And I think that is, again, just a kind of duality of, do I align with who I am perceived to be, or do I adjust myself to shift that perception? And obviously we put forward a version of ourselves, and while authenticity is valuable, perception is also valuable. All that being said, I believe I've determined that my desires supersede my comfort, and that a certain amount of work and uncomfortability in the short term is worth the reward of aligning who I am with who I want to be, and also shifting how I'm perceived externally in a valid way. For a long time, I've presented a version of myself to the world, and I would much rather truly embody that so that it is authentic. And I don't think that that's inherently problematic. I would rather align myself with an idealized version of myself than the most comfortable version that currently exists. There's more to this conversation, but I think I'll leave that for another time. I'll talk to you later.